And here is what is important for us to recognize and realize on our road of detours. That you know that you're getting ready to come out of a detour and head towards your destiny when the Lord disappoints you when you thought he was coming through for you. I'm just maybe talking to about 10 of y'all in the building. You ever been at a place in your life where you thought you were coming out of something and then God retracted it and started you back over? You know when you're coming out, when you get ready, when it feels like the pressure has lifted and you have obtained the victory, and here God sends you disappointments. He tells you not ready yet. You haven't matured enough. You haven't gone through enough. And then some of us will begin to question God and say, God, are you crazy? I done been through some stuff that I should have lost my mind in the midst of what I was going through. I've been through some stuff that should have killed me. Been through some stuff that should have caused me to leave you and leave the church. But God said, you haven't really been through anything. Because what you consider a suffering, God says, I'm looking at it as a blessing. The question is, has this ever happened to you? You got to a place where you thought you were victorious and bad news has been happening all around you. The phone rings, there's bad news. You go to the mailbox, bad news. You go to the doctors, he gives you bad news. There's a knock on your door, there's bad news. We've all had times of suffering. And the reality is that for all of us, nobody wants to go through it. Nobody, if we did a survey in here, nobody's going to say, I enjoy suffering. But what we have to realize is that sufferings are necessary for our spiritual development. Here we look at the text, the Apostle Paul have had one of the most remarkable experiences anyone could possibly have. To be caught up into the very heavens with God. He has been permitted, watch this, to see things that no one else has ever seen. And Paul could have very easily been filled with pride. He could have got puffed up like some of us do. You know, I done been there. I done seen it all. Can't nobody tell me anything. But then there is a bump in the road. He gets what the Bible calls a thorn in his flesh. Here Paul, one of the godliest people of the Bible, prays and asks God to remove the thorn from his flesh. And here God, he tells him, he doesn't say to Paul, I'm going to remove it. He doesn't say, I'm going to take it away from you. He doesn't say, I'm even going to sustain you in the midst of it. He says these words. He says, no, but my grace will be sufficient. That word sufficient is interpreted that my grace is enough. It's all you need. My grace can carry you through. And is there anybody here that had that testimony that God's grace is sufficient? You got to understand that grace and mercy, two different things. Grace is God giving you what you don't deserve. Mercy is not God really giving you what you do deserve. Grace is the rewarding aspect of God's love. Mercy, the restricting aspect of God's love. And so here God says, Paul, I'm going to reward you with something. Even though you have walked upright, even though you're going through what you're going through, I'm rewarding you with something called my grace. My grace is sufficient. And Paul tells us a lot of things about this thorn in the flesh. He tells us the purpose of it. He tells us the pain of it. He tells us the provision that's in it. And then he tells us the product of it and the perspective of it. Here we see in verse 7 the purpose of this disruptive moment. He says, lest I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelation. Paul clearly states that the purpose of his suffering was to protect him from sin of pride. Can I say it again? He clearly states that the purpose was to protect. God, don't let me get prideful in this thing. Don't let me achieve all that I have achieved in life and forget who gave it to me. Don't let me get to a place, and we thank God, all the graduates on today, all those that are but don't ever get to a place where you get higher education and you get letters behind your name that you forget from where you came. That you forget that if it had not been for God who was on your side. So Paul says, don't ever let me get to a place or a pinnacle in my life that I forget that the hand of the Lord was the one that carried me through. And some of us got that testimony that God has blessed us so. Matter of fact, God has blessed us with some undeserved blessings. You didn't deserve to be where you are. If the truth be told, you didn't deserve to have what you have. You didn't deserve to be living where you're living and driving what you're driving. But because of the grace and the mercy of God, God says, I'm going to bless you even when you don't deserve to be blessed. I just need to talk to about 10 folks in the building that can say, I'm living on some undeserved blessings. If you went down my history and went down my life and knew me back in the day, God should not have blessed me with what I'm blessed with, but because he looks beyond my faults and because he sees my need, God blesses me in spite of. Who am I talking to on a Sunday afternoon that says I'm walking in some in spite of blessings? Shouldn't have it, but he blessed me anyhow. Shouldn't be living there, but he blessed me anyhow. Shouldn't be driving when I'm driving, but he blessed me anyhow. Shouldn't be on the job that I'm on, but he blessed me anyhow. In spite of me, God has blessed me. Some of you can't get with that because you believe you achieve what you got because of what you know. But it's not what you know, it's who you know. And when you know the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, when you know he's Alpha and Omega, when you know he's beginning and the end, when you know he's first and the last, when you know that he is the creator of all things, you'll recognize I didn't get to where I am because I'm not good. I got to where I am because he is good. Paul, he clearly states that the purpose of his suffering was to protect him from the sin of pride. I feel like preaching today. If he had a press agent in this day, he would have most certainly billed Paul as the only man who had visited heaven and lived to tell about it. But God uses disruptive moments to help us keep things in perspective. He uses disruptive moments to keep us humble, to keep us dependent upon himself, to keep us in perspective. That is not about us, but everything we do, it ought to advance the kingdom of God. God bless you. He didn't bless you, I say this often, he didn't bless you just to have the blessings to yourself, but he blessed you to be a blessing to somebody else. All this knowledge, all this gifts and abilities that God has given us is to be a blessing to somebody else. And here it is. This is not in the script, but I'm giving y'all freebies. Some of you, God has given you gifts and talents, and he has blessed you, and you're just sitting on it. It's not for you to sit on. It's not for you. It's for you to be a blessing to somebody else.